Welcome to the Life Code Deep Dive Masterclass. My name is Ana Maria Venegas Bernal, and it's a pleasure for me to welcome you to this masterclass. This masterclass is a complete usage guide for applying the Life Code method. It is designed so that by the end of it, you know exactly how to move through the material step by step in order with real examples. And before we go into this process, I want to clarify what this work is actually for. The life code is a way to use what you already know. It is not adding anything, but it is aligning your life to be in the best way as it was supposed to be, to follow your birth blueprint. Most people who come to this work already have a great deal of self-knowledge. They have charts, human design reports, gene key reports, astrology readings, years of journaling, therapy notes, retreat insights, moments of clarity that felt important when they arrived. And yet, when a real decision came, many of those insights did not actually guide the choice. The person still reverts to habit or fear or external pressure, or the pattern they already know is no longer working. And that is because the information has not been translated into a usable structure. And I built this because I lived this exact problem for 10 years or maybe more. I had charts, reports, ceremonial insights, years of journaling. I could describe myself in 6 different languages of self-knowledge, like I am a generator. I need to wait for a response. But what does that mean? I am a Libra. How it is hard for me to take decisions. What does that mean? How can I use that to my advantage? And when a real decision arrived, what to build, what to let go, what kind of life to actually create, I had to start from scratch every single time. And the life code came from that need, a way to organize what I already knew into something I could live. And that is what the life code does. It takes symbolic and lived information and turns it into a personal operating framework, something you can actually use when making decisions about work, money, visibility, rhythm, relationships, creativity, direction, purpose, etc. So, what do we learn? By the end of this masterclass, you will know how to do 3 things. First, build a unified self map. So this means gathering astrology, human design, gene keys, numerology, Maya calendar, whatever other systems, Kabbalah, and lived life patterns. This is very important. The experience of your life into one coherent blueprint instead of leaving them scattered across different documents and interpretations. The second is to create a personal decision filter. So this means turning your patterns into principles that can guide real choices, usable questions and statements that help you decide. And things like career, relationship, creativity. How can you align your life, your routines, your skills with your deepest nature? And third, you build a 30-day living structure. This means taking what you discover and embedding it into rhythm, ritual, and life architecture so the insight does not disappear after the workbook is complete. Yeah, very good at completing tasks and courses and then forgetting about them. And that is the purpose of the deep dive, to move from self-study into self-application. So in this 30-day living structure, you will have a practical week-by-week integration plan that embeds your insight into your daily rhythm, into ritual and long-term life architecture. And I want to make a note and a parenthesis here in ritual. It does not mean big rituals. It means living in a way that honors what you are doing in your everyday life. Okay. And what is the difference between this deep dive and the starter kit? The starter kit gives you the entry point to the method. It introduces the framework and helps you begin seeing how symbolic systems can be gathered into a life map. You have all the files that are included in the starter kit. The deep dive is the guided application layer. And here we take the same method and go much deeper. The 20 theme library, the sorting process, the pattern work, the decision filter, the life architecture map, and expanded AI prompt pack, and go deeper and integrate everything. The starter kit helps you begin, and the deep dive helps you integrate this work. Uh, so the first one gives you the beginning of the map. Let's say it this way. The method, the framework, the first version of your life code. And the second one, the deep dive, is for when you already are ready to go further. So you are ready to classify your signals precisely, working with the full theme library and translating everything into decisions and structures that you can actually live and that can be supportive of your life from now on. This is where the work becomes operational and embodied. And the base life architecture process is systems, keywords, patterns, principles, decisions, life architecture. In the deep dive, we apply that process through 7 working steps. So we gather, meaning you collect it says 6 sources, but you can do less or more. Theme, you identify your 20 core threads. Sort, organized by frequency and intensity, all this information and data that you have gathered. And then patterns, where you spot what repeats across systems. Principles, where you distill your personal laws. Decisions, where you apply your 4 questions filter. You will see that further in the presentation. And structures, where you build your live architecture. This is the operational version of the method, and it shows you exactly what to do first, what comes next, and why the order mattered. Because each step creates the material the next step needs. So it's really important that you dedicate good time and attention to each one of the steps. Throughout this masterclass, stay with the sequence, and not just through the masterclass, but through the entire process. Stay with the sequence. The order is part of the method. Step 1, gather your 6 sources. Again, it says 6, but you can have more or you can have less. And the first step is to gather and only gather. Your sources could be astrology, human design, Yankees, numerology, Maya calendar, life patterns. It could be Kabbalah, it could be Dream Spell, and many other systems. The life patterns are important because your lived experience is one of the sources. Your journals, the repeated struggles, the peak experiences, the body signals, the recurring relationship patterns, the work patterns, the money patterns, the creative cycles, all that is information and is the most vital information of this work. I have deep respect for all the systems. Each one showed me something real about myself and resonated very deeply within me. And I also know the feeling of having too many open tabs inside yourself. I am an air sign. So astrology says one thing, human design gives you another language and keys as another layer. And certainly you are rich in self knowledge, but still unclear about what to do next. And it's like us when you go into this world and everything is like super messy. That's how I felt my head was and my inner world was to some extent in regards of these systems. This process works with all of them because they are important. They are giving you a different layer of yourself. And the goal is the repeated signal underneath, not a new identity on top. So at this stage, your job is to collect the raw language each source uses to describe you, and the meaning comes later. First, you gather, then you classify, then you look for repetition. Okay. In astrology, you see the sun, and maybe your sun is, let's say, Sagittarius, and teacher, teaching, exploring, being outside. These could be keywords. And so you gather those keywords, especially the ones that resonate with you and the ones that you find really a really strong resistance. So in astrology, you can look at your sun, your moon, the rising, the key placement, dominant signs and houses. But in the workbook, it goes deeper and it tells you what to look at with every system. In human design, you look at type, strategy, authority, profile, define centers, gen keys. You look at activation, Venus, pearl, sequences, shadow, gift, city, language. In numerology, you look at your life path, expression, soul, urge, and personal year. In the Mayan calendar, in the dream spell, you look at your kin, your tone, your tribe, the castle, the galactic signature. And in the life patterns, you look at recurring themes, peak experiences, persistent struggles in your life. And the library contains 20 core themes: autonomy, visibility, stability, devotion, creativity, power, belonging, voice, service, intimacy, money, leadership, home, transformation, spirituality, discipline, freedom, safety, desire, purpose. These themes are broad categories that help you classify the language coming from different systems and from your life. For example, one system may speak about independence, another may speak about self direction, another may show a repeated life pattern around living structures that feel restrictive. Those may all belong to the theme of autonomy or freedom. The theme library gives you a way to translate different languages into a shared vocabulary. So that shift happened for me when I stopped asking, what does this placement mean? And started asking, what word keeps showing up? Transformation, for me at least, transformation, depth, voice, structure, service, visibility, design. And when the same word appears in your astrology, in your human design, in your gen keys, in your lived experience, that is a signal. The theme library is how you classify those signals so they can actually tell you something. And this is where scattered information begins to become usable. So, to give you an example, to show you how the theme library works, let's look at one theme: stability. Stability is the capacity to remain rooted while remaining open, just like a tree. It is the ground from which movement becomes possible. And in practice, this theme can show up through foundation, groundedness, consistency, reliability, endurance, rootedness, and steadiness. It may also show up through money, home, rhythm, nervous system safety, resources, and stability. The shadow expression of stability can look like stagnation, fear of change, over attachment to routine, resistance to grow, confusing comfort with alignment. But it can also show up as the opposite, avoiding structure until life becomes chaotic, or creating intensity because calm feels unfamiliar. I know this very well. The aligned expression is building structures that support movement, creating and building rhythms that nourish, choosing consistency as an act of self-respect. So stability in this method is what makes freedom sustainable. And then we have a reflection question. Where in my life am I mistaking movement for growth or stillness for stagnation? This is a very good reflection question for this theme. And you may have other reflection questions for the other themes according to your lived experience. This cross reference guide is a starting point for pattern recognition. Each system uses a different symbolic language. So, astrology may point to a theme through planet, signs, houses, or repeated chart emphasis. As we see on this chart, stability could show in your Saturn placement, what house is your Capricorn in, what angles and planets you have in there, and also in your second house. In human design is defined root center, the gate number 32, and the gate number 50 as well. In Gen Keys, you may want to look at your Gen Key number 50, which is harmony. In numerology, life path number 4 and 8 talk about stability. And in Mayan calendar, the tone 4, self-existing, talk about that, or the warrior archetype. For each theme, we will find where to look at for each system. And as I said, human design may point through type, authority, centers, gates, channels, or profile dynamics. Astrology may point to a theme through planet, signs, houses, or repeated chart emphasis. Gen Keys may point through the shadow gifts and city spectrum. Numerology may point through life path, expression, soul work, or personal year. The Maya calendar may point through kin, tone, seal, tribe, or archetypal language. The purpose is to know where to look when a theme begins repeating. The theme becomes central when it appears across several sources and is confirmed by lived experience. One appearance is a clue, but repetition is the signal. Now, sorting, organizing what you've gathered. Once your sources are gathered and you have the theme library in front of you, the sorting step begins. This is where accumulation starts becoming insight. The process has 5 steps. First, list every theme mentioned. Write down every theme, keyword, or quality named across your 6 sources. Do not filter yet, just capture everything. Second, count frequency. Notice how many sources mention each theme. A theme appearing in 3 or more sources is a strong signal of a pattern. Note intensity. That's the third one. Some themes carry emotional charge, either strong resonance or strong resistance. Fourth, identify contradictions. Themes that appear in conflict, stability and freedom, for example, or visibility and safety, devotion, and autonomy. These frictions or contradictions are very important. They are often the most fertile areas for integration work. And fifth, create your top 7. From the full list, select 7 themes with the strongest combination of frequency and intensity. Use the numbers to see. Then use lived recognition to discern. So again, use the numbers to see the patterns and themes, but use your lived recognition to discern your lived experience. Themes are categories. Patterns are relationships between categories. At this point, you have identified the themes. Now you look at how they interact. The example on this slide is Elena, and she has a structure paradox. A structure appeared on 5 of 6 sources. Creativity appeared in 4, but creativity had not been integrated. This created what we call the structure paradox. So Elena knew she needed a structure, but every time she built a structure, she destroyed it within weeks. Why? The issue was that she was building structures with no room for creative deviation. So the structure became a cage. The resolution was to redesign a structure so it could hold creativity. She included structured creative time as a non-negotiable part of the week. Then the structure could finally hold. Stability is a theme. Creativity is a theme. The structure paradox is the pattern that appears when those themes interact. I'll say that again. Stability is a theme. Creativity is a theme. They come from the keywords and lived experience. But that structure paradox, not being able to hold the stability, knowing that she needed creativity, and because she was so creative, then she was destroying the stability. See where I'm going? That is a pattern that appears when those themes are interacting. That pattern of creating a structure, then destroying it, then seeking for creativity, and then getting back into a structure because it's needed, and so on and so forth. That cycle, that is a pattern. Step 5. Before I go into step 5, I give you another example. A pattern shows up in very ordinary places. The kind of work you keep being drawn to, the decisions you keep avoiding, the environments where your body relaxes, the projects you keep wanting to build but you postpone. For me, recognizing those as patterns and reading them as one architecture was what changed how I make decisions now. They were always pointing in the same direction. I just needed a system to see it. And this paradox was really bothering me and creating havoc in my life. Once I developed the system, then I could hold onto the structure knowing that this is part of my life and how to go about that structure. Now, a principle is a decision-making sentence. The formula is the following one. Because I know X, Y, Z pattern, I choose X, Y, Z principle. For example, because I know I destroy a structure when it has no creative space, I choose to build rhythms that include deliberate, unstructured time. Another example. Because I know I contract when I feel trapped by obligation, I choose to negotiate flexibility before I commit. How does that look like? Will we see each other in a month? Yes, let's do that. But I may have to change the plan, and I'll let you know if so. I'll put it in my agenda, but I need to know that there is flexibility from the other part before I commit. Okay. Third example, because I know I give from depletion when I skip my own restoration, I choose to treat rest as the foundation of my contribution. What does not work as a principle? Affirmations. What's an affirmation? Things like, I am powerful. I trust the universe. Everything is aligned. They are powerful statements, but they are affirmations. They do not guide your life because they are not measurable. They are not something that you can directly apply into your life. They do not help you to make a specific decision. So living with that knowledge of I am powerful and feeling powerful, it's powerful, but that doesn't help you to make a specific decision. A principle needs to be concrete enough that when you read it in front of a difficult choice, it orients you toward action. Step 6, the decision filter. The decision filter is where the method becomes practical. Every significant decision can be passed through the same 4 questions. First, does this align with my core themes? So, does this opportunity, relationship, or path resonate with the themes that appear most consistently across my 6 sources? Second, does this honor my known patterns, or am I walking into something I have already identified? Or am I making a choice that reflects what I've learned about myself? Now, the third, does this require me to abandon a principle? If saying yes means violating one of your distilled personal laws, what is the cost and is it worth it? Fourth, what does my body say after sitting with this for 24 hours? Does my body feel expansion or contraction? This is the final arbiter. This was the piece of information, the piece I personally needed the most. A beautiful description of who I am was already something I had. What I needed was a way to decide. It was really hard for me to take decisions and not be confused by many different possibilities out there and what my body was saying versus what I thought was right, etc., etc. What do I build first? What do I say yes to? What do I stop forcing? What kind of a structure actually supports my energy and my life? The decision filter is where the life code stops being a self-knowledge exercise and becomes a practical tool. This is where my life changed. A decision without a structure is just an intention. The life architecture map translates your principles and core themes into a structured overview across major life domains: work, money, visibility, daily rhythm, and depending on your map, relationships, creativity, home, well-being, or purpose, or something else. For each area, the map asks you the same sequence. What is the current path? What is the current pattern? What is the guiding principle? What decision does that principle require? What needs to be created? What needs to be released? One area, one pattern, one principle, one decision, one thing to create, one thing to release, and that is enough. So if you look at the chart here with some examples, you could look at money, for example, life area, money. Current pattern, avoids looking at finances and earns inconsistently. The guiding principle, I choose to build financial stability as an act of self-respect. decision, I set up a monthly money review. Every month, I'm going to look at my finances, what I spent money on, and what money came in. What I create? A simple income tracking ritual. So, as I said, a ritual doesn't need to be something elaborated. The ritual could be just sitting at your computer, dedicating 1 to 2 hours to look at the finances of your month, and then take decisions from there. And I release the shame around charging the worth. So many times, especially people like me with our own businesses and our own offerings, we feel shame around charging. We should not. That shame needs to be released because that shame is creating a frequency that is creating these conditions where people, clients, or people who are interested in your products don't buy them or don't want to pay what it is worth. So you can read the other life areas of these examples like work, money, visibility, and daily rhythm at your own pace. The 30-day integration plan. The 30-day plan gives the process a container. Week 1 is awareness. It's the gathering phase. You collect your sources, you extract raw keywords, and begin your life architecture map without forcing conclusions. Do not interpret yet. Just extract the raw keywords. Week 2 is observation. It's the sorting phase. You use the theme library, notice repetitions, and begin to see which themes appear most consistently. Also, notice the emotional intensity around those themes and the keywords. Week 3 is adjustment. It's where patterns and principles begin to form. Here you look at the relationship between themes, refine what feels too abstract, and write principles that can actually guide decisions. And in week 4 is embodiment. Is where the work becomes structural. You apply the decision filtered to a real decision and complete the life architecture map. Here, you see what to create and what to release. Dedicate 15 to 30 minutes a day to each step. That is enough. The point is to let the patterns become visible, and you need time for that. Don't rush it. By day 30, you have a living document, which is your life code that you can turn into your blueprint, that you can return to, you can refine and use. Return to it as many times as you need to. This is not a fixed process. This evolves as you do in your life. The AI prompt pack. The deep dive includes a pack of 12 AI prompts, and AI is useful for specific tasks. Extracting keywords from long notes, sorting keywords into themes, proposing possible pattern clusters, testing principles, summarizing your life code for review. This is very useful. So use AI, if you will use AI for this, as a mirror, but not the authority. Treat every output as draft material. You decide what stays. Again, your lived experience is what makes this alive. AI has not lived your life. AI hasn't gone from birth, childhood, teenager years, young adult self, and adulthood. You have. So you really need to look at this through your own lens and your lived experience. AI is not the authority, you are. Don't give away your power. So we see it here. AI helps to synthesize in large amounts of source data quickly, generating reflection questions from your themes, drafting principal statements for you to refine, exploring contradictions between themes, creating journaling prompts tailored to your life code. Where AI falls short, it cannot feel what resonates, only you can. It may reflect your biases back at you as insight. It works best after you have done the human work first. It cannot replace embodied self knowledge, the contraction and expansion in your body. And treat outputs as drafts, not verdicts. These 12 prompts are structured to guide you through each of the 7 steps. Use them as scaffolding, not shortcuts. There is also, as I told you at the beginning, you will receive the link to the AI I have created for the deep dive. And this one helps you to go through the process and it guides you in case you feel stuck at some point. It helps you to see if your decisions are clear enough and your principles are clear enough. So this could be a really good tool for you to check once you have completed by yourself or you're stuck at some point. Common mistakes to avoid. Before you begin working, here are 6 most common mistakes. First, collecting without synthesizing. At some point, you have to stop gathering and start integrating. More input is not more clarity, it's more confusion. Second, mistaking the map for the territory. Your life code is a living framework. You are the one using it. Third, rushing to principles. If you write principles before identifying genuine patterns, they become affirmations. Wait until the pattern is clear. Principles built on insufficient data become affirmations, not laws. You need principles, not affirmations. Fourth, ignoring contradictions. Themes that conflict are often the most important data you have. Skipping themes that seem to conflict, contradictions are not problems. They are the most important data you have. Fifth, completing it once. The life code evolves as you do. It is a living document, and you can return to it as many times as you feel like, as many times as you need to. And I recommend going through it at least every 6 months. But once a year, good enough. Things change so rapidly these days. You are evolving much more rapidly now than ever before. So go back to it. And number 6, over relying on AI. AI can sort, can reflect, can summarize, but the code must come from you. The life code is a living map. So please return to it when you are making a decision, return to it when your rhythm stops working, return to it when your work changes, your life circumstances change, return to it when life asks for a new structure. You can begin in 3 ways. Start with a real decision and run it through the decision filter. Follow the 30-day plan from beginning to end, or return quarterly and review what has changed. My intention with this is to give you a way to read your own information clearly, to recognize your own patterns, to make decisions that feel coherent with your life, from your own understanding, from your own code, from what keeps repeating in the unique combination of all your system and lived experience, from the unique blueprint that your beautiful soul has come here with. The life code is yours. It was always yours. This is just a system that helps you read it. Stop collecting insight and start building your architecture. Thank you.